Good morning, everybody. Do you remember the song American Pie and that line, the day the music died? I think last Wednesday was the day the credibility at the Bureau of Labor and Statistics died. Here's what happened, and it was a bad day for that department. They were issuing something called the Quarterly Census of Employment and Wages. Now, we'll get into that in just a minute, but just know on Wall Street, everybody was waiting for this data. Here was the first mess up. This was supposed to be released at 10 o'clock. Well, it's an important report, so traders on Wall Street are glued to their computer screens. And at 10 o'clock, there was no report. Well, knowing these guys, like at 10 o'clock and 15 seconds, they're pounding that F5 button on the computer, on the keyboard, refresh, 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 nothing, nothing, nothing. Well, maybe 10, 15 minutes into the delay, some improvising boys over at Nomura Securities, I think BNP Paribas, a couple of other banks, they called the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. I can imagine the call. Hey, Frank, this is Jim over at Nomura, and we're kind of waiting for the report, but would you mind giving it to me over the phone? And the BLS did it. They gave four banks, the information over the phone before anybody else had it. Well, imagine these guys still pounding the F5 button, and then they're watching these trades go off. How does Nomura know? How does BNP Paribas know? And as you can imagine, army words started flying across trading desks all across Wall Street. What in the heck is the BLS doing, releasing data to these guys and not to us? So that was the start of the day. Around 10:35, they finally released the data, and everyone was furious. Then it got worse because the data was so far off that it threw everything for the past year into doubt. So, what is this quarterly census of employment and wages report? There are a couple reports about unemployment the BLS puts out, the jobs report. The first one that comes out at the end of a quarter, it's really a quick report. It's based on a small sample size. They've got models, they've got some algorithms, they've got ways where they try to figure out what the unemployment rate is. Actually, it's pretty hard, but they do their best. They put this number out, and everybody starts trading off that number. But then there's this thing. The quarterly census of employment and wages is the deep dive. Now, to BLS's credit, this report goes city by city, county by county, state by state, nationally, industry by industry, subsectors of industry, trying to account for actually about 95% of all the jobs in America. So how do they do this report? And by the way, it takes a long time. It takes about 5 months to put this thing together. What they do, let me find it here. All right. They use state unemployment insurance and unemployment compensation for federal employees as one of their key metrics to figure it out. Well, how does that work? Well, if somebody hires somebody, you got to get unemployment insurance. And you've got to do it at the state level and at the federal level. So if somebody says, oh, yeah, I hired 40 people. Well, how come you only got unemployment insurance on 10? Oh, well, I plan on hiring 40 people. Anyway, that's just one of the components. By the time they put this together, it's a 5-month lag. So what happened here? They were actually reporting for first quarter of this year, January to March, well, April, May, June, July, again, 5 months. And out that comes this report in this horrible way. And it was 818,000 jobs off. This is a huge miss. This is like, wait a minute, you guys have been telling us that the economy is good, jobs are great, we're adding 230, 240,000 jobs per quarter, and now it's 185,000 jobs per quarter over the last so many quarters. Wait, that's not adding jobs. We're actually losing jobs. And you're probably out there saying, well, wait, we added 185,000. That seems good. You actually have to add in this economy, based on population growth, about 200,000 jobs every quarter in order to stay even. Now, we weren't even staying even, we were actually losing labor participation, not just for this quarter, but they went back and they revised for the last few quarters. See that big drop down there with the yellow arrow pointing to it? That was the second biggest miss in history. And everyone said, you guys are one of three things. So here are our options. You guys are incompetent, all right? I get that. And based on last Wednesday, you can see how they would say that. Option number two, you guys are politicized. Someone has been calling you from the Senate or the White House or whatever, saying, look, we're going into an election year. We know you can't cheat on the numbers, wink, wink, but if you could kind of make it look better, we'd sure appreciate it. And when we get reelected, you can see how this would go. Does that happen with every administration? Yes. But the degree of this was off the charts. Number three, and this is where I'll be a little more forgiving to the BLS. The difference between those two reports, that short report I told you they put out right away, and the long report that comes out 5 months later, this one we're talking about here, in the last 10 years, it's been within every quarter about 0.1%. The short report was aligned with the long report. This one, though, was 0.5 percentage point off, which may not seem like much, but it's epic. So what happened? I think I can make the case for normalcy bias. That you've got these statisticians putting these reports together, and actually as far back as about this time last year, the economy was weakening, but the BLS was putting out a report. The short report was saying, well, it all looks okay. So are you going to be the guy who says, wait, that report's wrong? Or are you going to say, well, maybe this is just a one-off and maybe we should wait till the next quarter, which is probably what they did. Then they got into the next quarter, this first quarter of this year, and they realized, oh my gosh, not only were we wrong this quarter, but we were wrong last quarter and part of the quarter before that. We can't hide this anymore. And they probably decided to come clean. So which is it? Normalcy bias, politics, or incompetence? I don't know, probably some combination of all three. So what does it mean? Remember that last quarter ended was June. We won't have the next 5-month report till probably after the election. But does anybody out there believe that suddenly this economy zoomed straight back up, that we went from these red lines, suddenly we're going to shoot up to green? Most people doubt that. So what's happened on Wall Street? Perception has now changed. What was, we're the only economy in the world that's doing great. China's in trouble, Japan's in trouble, Europe's a mess, but America, we're doing okay. That perception's been shattered. That will change things as we head toward the election. Any incumbent, both sides, they've got to be worried right now. This recession is likely deepening, and it will be really felt by November. Next, our Federal Reserve is going to have to do something in September. They're meeting, and I'm going to guess they're already seeing emergency rate cuts in other parts of the world. Will we see that here? I think that's probably pretty likely. So I'll close with this. Walt and I have been saying, actually about the last year, something's off. But our eyes are telling us this economy is not doing what the statistics say, but the statistics kept coming out. And I'll say this, we didn't fall for it. We said, no, this isn't right. We're believing our eyes, not what these, and now it's proving true. Your portfolios are set up for this. It's set up for the reaction that's coming. When rates are dropped, that will likely help you a lot. So with that, I'll turn it over to Walt, and that's it for me today.